Hey, this is Sean Decker with Dread Central here at the TCL Theatre in the heart of Hollywood, California for the 21st Annual Screamfest Film Festival. And with me today is director Vincent Grashaw, filmmaker of What Josiah Saw, which is enjoying its LA premiere on October 20th. Before we dive in, let's take a look at an exclusive clip.
Last night, your mother, she come to me and she stood at the foot of my bed and she told me that you've been right all along. She'd walk out there at night. Oh, I never seen her. I never seen her, Paul. Well, she's seen you. She see you watching from that window. And she wanna come to you too. She says she wanna come to you. She say, you ain't ready yet. She say, yeah, we gotta ride our ways, and she's gonna send somebody to guide us, but they're gonna come to me and me only. And she say, if we ride our ways and we right a great wrong, then we could save her. We could save your mother, boy. She says she loves you. She says she loves you the best.
All right, let's talk about What Josiah Saw. I pre-screened this film prior to this interview, and I've got to say I was absolutely blown away by it. Like, blown away by it.
Awesome.
What was the development process on this, and how did the script come to you?
Like any film, I think for me so far, it's been a several-year journey to get a film going. Like really, I had acquired the rights to this in 2013. I knew the writer, I read many of his scripts, and I just felt connected to a lot of his material. It's very different, unique. Story structures were always really interesting. And this one, he was sending me like 10 pages at a time while writing, and I was just sucked into the sort of atmosphere in the universe he painted, and yeah, I was blown away. And so I got the rights to it right away, and almost got it made like 2 or 3 times right away, and then it failed, got funding, failed, and 6 years later, in 2019, we got it financed and moved right away, pretty quick. Several people were attached at one point to play the lead, and it was always sort of the same dagger and devastation when you lose it, you know?
Right. I found the approach to the storytelling really unique, not only just a narrative, which is, we'll get into that, but it's kind of told in a 3-chapter capacity. It's like a triptych that all intertwines together. Was that originally the script, or was that something that kind of was developed?
No, that was always in the script. Yeah, in fact, I think several companies and people we had gone to early were like, oh, you should intercut all these, and it always felt wrong to even think about it. Like, so I didn't even consider that. I felt like if people were saying that as a company and like you were trying to get involved with the movie, they just weren't the right partners. You know, we had a particular vision for this, and I feel like we accomplished it the best we could. It always had felt like sort of a Faulkner or Cormac McCarthy novel, even though it's not based on anything. There's just the writing it's like very visceral.
Yeah, hugely visceral, very grounded, and very dark. Certainly not, and with a wonderful reveal. It's one of those things when you're watching this film, you should probably go in and know nothing about it, because it takes you on one hell of a ride.
Yeah, I don't even like ever saying like there's a reveal or anything, because it's something like I feel like people will feel this movie is a discovery for them. It's not a movie that I feel is like a mass release or a mass audience. I think the enjoyment of this one is people will be like, this is a discovery for themselves, to then word of mouth sort of thing, Yeah.
It just unfolds in a beautiful way, and certainly has this increasing momentum and all these moments of awe over and over again. Not in the sense that it's a Shyamalan reveal in the finale, although there is a reveal there too. But yeah, I thought just the performances were so grounded within Robert Patrick, within Nick Stahl, who I thought was just phenomenal. Can you talk about the casting process and how you worked with those directors in order to just like create this fully realized world?
Yeah, to your point about it being grounded, I mean, I felt like if I ever done a horror movie, I'd want it to be grounded in a reality. And that was one of the strong points of the script. And I think going for these type of actors that are just really talented people and getting them for a no budget, essentially, movie, that script needs to be strong. And I think they all responded to that, you know, horror and human nature. You know, it's not so much about ghost or supernatural elements or boogeyman or something. This movie was, I think they just really responded to the script, you know. So Nick, I'd always been a huge fan of him. I'd heard that he was back at acting because he had taken a long time off. And he just really fit that role, and I feel like he really responded to that character. So we just made an offer to him, and he responded, and we had a conversation. And I never even met him before the day one of shooting for him. You know, we'd talk on the phone quite a bit, but on these kind of budgets, you just don't have any money for rehearsal. They're usually on another movie coming to yours, and so yeah. And Robert Patrick, we basically, it's another thing with these actors like Robert or any of the ones that you are basically offer-only actors. You need to somehow backdoor their agents, and I'm just going to say it. You need to find a way to get to them through friends or other relationships, because these no-budget movies, they're just agents. It's tough to get through that. And a good friend of mine, Ronnie Blevins, who's actually in the film as well, had worked with Robert and told him, hey, an offer's coming in. You should really check out this movie. And him and I had a FaceTime, Robert and I had a FaceTime while he was in New Jersey shooting, and he really liked the script, but I think for obvious reasons he was a little reluctant based on the material and the character. There's a lot of dialogue, a lot of intense moments for him. And so as much as he did like the script, I think he was really reluctant. We just talked, and I told him my vision with it and all that. And even then, I think he was nervous about it and not really leaning on doing it. And he asked to see my latest film that I had done, or my favorite film of mine that he could watch. And he did, and he called me right after. He's like, okay, now I felt like he was like, I'm safe with you with this material. Like I had, because this could have gone terribly wrong, I feel like, this movie. And I feel like the actors felt that, and I hope they were in good hands and wanted them to feel like safe with it, because it's a dark movie.
It really is.
Goes places I think that if done wrong could have, you know, you're walking a tightrope. You know?
Yeah, I can completely understand them having some anxiety in regards to how that material is going to be approached.
Yeah.
And you know how that director was going to, you know, helm the direction.
Yeah.
I really also really love the cinematography and the score. From scene one to scene done, this is again a fully realized world. I think that is beautiful and haunting, and yet really creeps under your skin. Talk about maybe your approach to that with the cinematographer and your composer.
Yeah, I'll start with the composer. So that started for me very early in the prep. Like, I do a ton of pre-production work, which kind of gives you the luxury to be a little more organic while shooting, because you're just prepared and you don't have a lot of time. But for the composer, I had basically found a ton of reference scores that I really felt were sort of in the mood that I liked for this. And I built it into the script for the composer specifically, Robert Paisior, who is mainly a strings violinist. He's brilliant, and I was referred to him through another composer friend. You know, he knew based on that script with the music references where I felt it would happen and take place. It was really like a blueprint for him to then do whatever he wanted. And I knew I wanted to create like a horror tone, because obviously the movie kind of has different themes or tones in terms of story, but I wanted the tone of like the eeriness and the atmosphere to stay consistent. And so I think throughout the movie there is this sort of unsettling, even in its quiet moments, like this unsettling score. The cinematographer, it's funny, like all my DPs that I had worked with were all on other gigs at the time I wanted to do this. And I reached out to an agency that repped Joshua James Richards, who did The Rider and Nomadland, before Nomadland, just seeing if he was free and available, and I was trying to pitch myself, and they're like, he's in London doing something, but here's like 10 other DPs we represent. And honestly, a lot of these agencies, some of them are weak, but all 10 of them were like, whoa, I'm like, this agency's great. And so I picked 7 of them that I felt fit this movie, and then 3 of them had read it and got back to us and were like really passionate about it. And Carlos Ritter, who is our DP, he had never shot a feature. And I saw his reel and I was just blown away, because his reel it was a lot of commercials, but it felt in the sort of mood and even like an indie film almost. So I was really blown away by his stuff. And he was actually in town. He was from Argentina, shooting a commercial in LA, and his agent was like, you gotta meet him, because he loved the script and he wants to meet you and talk to you about it. And we just met up at a bar and got drunk, and he was just, he's like, you fucked with me, man. Like, he was like, you drove me crazy with this script. So we just really hit it off.
So what are your thoughts on the Screamfest selection?
The Screamfest selection?
Of your film. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Of my film. I mean, honestly, I've heard a lot about this festival, and you know, we've been kind of making our rounds. And actually, one of my producers like, did you submit to Screamfest? And I'm like, no. It just slipped my mind, because I was handling so many different festivals and sort of submitting and coordinating that all on my end. And I was like, oh, absolutely, we have to submit to that. I've heard so many good things. I've had friends that had films here, and more importantly, the venues and the crowd is sort of what filmmakers look for.
Right.
And I've always seen a turnout here. I mean, there's nothing worse than going to a festival where there's 5 people at your film. Even if it's a great festival and they have great events, it's sort of disheartening. So to be playing in LA, where I'm from, born and raised, I used to come to these theaters in the Chinese Theater as a kid with my uncle and family. So it's pretty amazing to showcase this here.
So following the October 20th screening of What Josiah Saw here at Screamfest, what are the future plans for the film?
Yeah, we're talking to several distributors. We've gotten a lot of offers, and we've sort of narrowed it down. And so we'll have that announcement hopefully by the festival or screening to kind of say who's releasing it. But I would say it would be early 2022, first quarter. Yeah, we're very excited about the ones that we're talking to too. So I think it's going to have a great release.
And you're doing 2 pictures with Random Mix, from what I understand, next year, 2 feature films.
Yeah.
Are you still working within the genre, or what can we expect?
Yeah, so Random Mix Productions came on, and this was their first foray into film. And I think we all really hit it off, and they're very excited about what's been happening. And so, yeah, they're getting into film, and we've got our next 2 films. And no, they're not horror, but they're again, I think for me, it's movies that are kind of grounded in the human condition, and I would say one of them is a true story based on this guy who went to prison for over 11 years and escaped in Florida. And so it's a sort of a 16-year span throughout his life in that journey. And then the one after that we're doing, hopefully, it looks like next summer. So it's like back to back. It's a movie that deals with the Jonestown Massacre.
That's horrific.
Yeah. So it's not a horror movie though, but it definitely is a movie that locks into what happened and plays through that whole element.
So we've been asking everybody for our final question on this, and Screamfest plug, aside from Screamfest, what's your favorite October tradition?
Favorite October tradition for me? I mean, typically what I do is I watch the Halloween films.
I do too.
Yeah, it's like a thing I have to watch. I try and watch them all, but
do you watch them in order, or do you watch them?
No, I skip like a couple of those.
If this happens, some of them are skipped, some occasionally, depending on one's taste.
Yeah. I grew up a big Halloween Michael Myers fan. I mean, I attribute horror a lot to how I even got into films, for sure. Scream, Halloween. I mean, there was that era when Scream came out in the mid-90s where it was like, I loved them. And so, yeah, I attribute a lot of my filmmaking aesthetics to the movies I watched at that time, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing your thoughts on this film. I'm really excited for the Screamfest audience to see it, and general audiences as well. It's really, really powerful.
Thanks, man. 21 years, great to be at this film festival, so yeah, thanks for having me.
Definitely. All right, well, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned to Dread Central for more exclusive content on Screamfest, and for more information on the film festival, you can visit them at screamfestla.com.